Tell us about your heavy nuts.
Tell us about your big nuts.
Yeah, so this is August 2014. I built 20 robots in my first year, like half of all the robots I ever built. It must have been something like that. It was a lot of robots. So I was like, right, done a feather. I've done my first ever live event. I'm going to do a heavy. So I started an FRA thread called 50-pound heavyweight. So I built a featherweight for 50 pounds. I was like, I want to build a bigger robot for 50 pounds. So I went through and posted this list of all these parts that I could find in the shed of requirements. The plan was originally a giant Ritchie. I had these wheels, I had these big forks, I had this huge screw thread off an old apple press that was being chucked. Yes, so I kind of posted this and good luck.
Heavyweights are stupid.
Put together a motor controller prototype, big MOSFETs, etc. And then people started chiming in and saying, "Oh, I've got various bits you can have." So Harry Hills, bless him, donated the batteries. So he gave me some new, fresh SLAs. Dave Laurie was like, "I've got some motors and wheels from my old heavyweight that I haven't used in years. I'm not going to use them again. You build silly robots. Do you want them?" I was like, sure. It would be daft, but I could build a heavyweight version of my Fleaweight nuts. Just after I'd done the first AWS, we were having pre-drinks. Alex was coming over and we were about to go out on a night out. I think this is where the taxi didn't turn up for the entire evening, so we gave up. But we were all quite drunk still. We had a Pringles tin lying around the flat house. I was like, I could make a robot out of this. Put some 2 slots in it, put a couple of motors and controller and battery in it. I was like, well, what can I do with that? Well, I can just stick some bits of wire and a pair of nuts on the end and can call it nuts. And this was where the original full body flail spinner idea came from, was with this night out.
This was also the origin of the Pringles sponsorship, wasn't it?
Well, maybe. I mean,
Pringies always result in great things. I think that's what we can take as a conclusion from this. Pringies are great. For that reason, Pringies, you should hear this and give us money.
Yeah. When you pop it, it's great.
So, yes. So I had this.
Yes.
Yes. I had the chassis. I had the chassis layout kind of in mind. So it was kind of similar to the amp weight in that you had the motors next to each other and the wheels kind of line up, and then you could have the battery sticking out each end. I needed some stuff to build out of, so an old elevator frame that had just been scrapped, and so it had lots of nice big box section on it. After that had been cut up, kind of work out the general chassis to it, and that was tack welded together. So this was the very first test of nuts.
Big nuts.
Big nuts. So I was, for the first week, I was going to call it Big Nuts, and then I was like, nah, it's possibly a bit much. And no one knows what all nuts is, so we'll just call it Nuts. Cable type the batteries in, cable type the motor controller in, just sent it.
Damn, snippy.
That was the very first time it moved on its own power. And yeah, NPCs with big wheels on moved quite fast, despite it being a terrible, terrible idea. Those are obviously old Saint wheels, so off the lovely Craig Colliers. So yes, after that I added a bit of armour to it, so this was some old Arena polycarbonate that came from Jono. By this point I had spent £20 on the motor controller and £10 on the polycarbonate. So for its first fight I'd ended up spending £30 on this heavyweight. This ring that I put on it was made out of old point rodding. So this is from train stations where the old mechanical points moved back and forth, and the chains were from various old bits of antique farm machinery that was in the shed. Bundled it in the back of the car, so the ring unbolts, the wheels unbolt, and it all stacks neatly in the boot of a Vauxhall Corsa. Had its first ever fight. I remember loading into this fight and going, oh god, everything is so big. Will it work? And yeah, it worked surprisingly well. I think it's the first time it ever hit stuff. I have no recollection of how much testing it got before this event. Knowing me, this is probably the first time it had moved whilst fully constructed. But yeah, it worked all right. It was quite a lot of fun to drive. It's now one of the last two, so this is beginning Nuts' long tradition of being the winning fights by just outlasting things so he couldn't get thrown out the arena. So it had successfully not died at this point. One of the wires does eventually come off, but it's got 2 sets of battery packs, so it's now only running on one of the lead-acid battery packs. But yeah, so I managed to, my first my first fight in heavyweight arena, I managed to fill 3 minutes, which is largely unheard of for heavyweights because, flippers. The very next events that did was the 2015 Heavyweight World Championships. So yes, Alex and I both turned up with our heavyweight. Alex had this wonderful item. This was the very first event I had the orange fur for. My mum had sheep-shaped footstools, and some very eccentric customer said, I want an orange one. So she had to buy a whole load of this orange fur and had a load left over. And she was like, Rory, you build silly stuff. You want some orange fur? And I was like, sure, why not? This was my outfit for the event.
Amazing.
Ignore the googly eyes. Yeah, so I kind of just survived my way through the first fight. Again, a bit like Robot Wars. The second fight was a 3-way melee that the top 2 robots went through. Again, I survived my way through that. And so much to my great surprise, I was now in like the top 8 or something just by surviving. Probably my first fight the next day was against Thor. It being old polycarbonate, it does not go well. And Thor just entirely demolishes the top of nuts. I think I came sixth out of the 50 robots there, the World Championships, so 6th in the world. Yeah, it was just a hell of a lot of fun, and that's kind of continued. So the next FRA Championship, I ended with nuts. I ended up coming 5th, I think, a similar way. Up until 2017, I built 45 robots, and then since then, I've built about 4. I've also spent about 10 times the amount as I spent on the first 45. So, I miss the old days where I built lots of robots for cheap rather than a few robots for lots. The entire of Nut Zero was built from donated parts. Very surprising to me, quite how generous the community was.
They're also really generous with their time. Like, Rory is the person who probably got me going in a lot of, at least featherweight stuff.
I've spent more time the last 4 years working on other people's robots than I have on my own, by a long shot.
What are your favourite bits of knowledge that you'd like to share with people?
Don't take it too seriously and don't try too hard. I've always had way more fun doing robots, putting a little bit of effort into a robot and having some fun with it rather than trying to win anything. My best events have always been ones where I've turned up with something a bit crap and done better than expected. So, don't take it too seriously and just have fun with it. It's a hobby after all. If you're going to an event, remember to have fun. Also remember to drink water.
Oh, that is
That
good advice.
Pro tip.
Stay hydrated, kids.
Very good.
That's a good
Thanks, Papa Rory.
Your Pringles.
We can wrap up with have fun, drink water, eat Pringles.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Joe Brown YouTube experience.
Thank you, Gareth.
Oh.
That's excellent.
We'll see you next time on the BBB Not a Podcast.
We're always going to record on Discord with shit audio quality.
Deal with it.
Bye.
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 Bye, Tweedy.
Bye, Tweedy.
That's a terrible impression of me.
Tweedy, I forgot you were here.
I'm going to go and play a bit of League of Legends.
Alright, see you later. See you later, mate.
See you later, Tweedy.